So welcome everybody. We are very glad to be with you today to talk about one of our favorite topics, neuro-linguistic programming. And we're going to cover 6 powerful techniques and share about the power of NLP today with you and how you can use those techniques to increase your coaching impact. All right, so just some rules to start. Please make sure you mute your mic. Write your question in the chat. You can write a question anytime. We will pause. We will pause. Take some time at the end of the webinar to answer them. There will be some polls, so please participate. And there will be a breakout room at the end of the webinar. If you have a quality issue, do not hesitate to turn off your video, although we like to see your faces as well. All right. So let's start by introducing ourselves. So I'm very glad to be with Lily, to partner with Lily. I'm extremely grateful to have met Lily a while ago. So Lily is an amazing entrepreneur. She has created many different startups, successful startups. She's an expert in sales, in tech and in finance. She has spent most of her career in finance and tech and also in business development. So she's passionate about entrepreneurship, but also about coaching and more specifically about neuro-linguistic programming. And you will see that today. She's also always trying to help others. Whenever she meets someone, she wants to help. And she's spending a lot of time helping NGOs as well. And she's an extremely energetic person doing lots of triathlon.
Thank you, Geraldine. So I'm very grateful to have met Geraldine a few years ago and co-founded the Go Master Coach. It's one of the best meetings I had in my life, getting to know Geraldine. So she's a very good executive coach, PCC certified with ICF, Gallup Strengths certified, and entrepreneur. 18 years of professional experience in change management, transformational project. She's very passionate about NLP also, so you'll see today, and behavioral coaching. She's a triathlete also, but she wins races, I don't. So kudos to Geraldine, and a mom of 3 wonderful kids that I love. Thank you, Geraldine. Thank you for everything.
Thanks. Okay, we always start with our why. What is our purpose and why are we here? And our purpose is to empower others. And to empower others, we have developed a coaching certification certification program. And we have developed a coaching toolbox. If you want access to the toolbox, please let us know. You might have received an email already. So this is our purpose. Our purpose is really to help empower others. Okay, so how do we do that? So our philosophy is based on 5 key pillars. The first one is whatever we share, it's based on industry research and best practices. And our job is to understand the key concepts, the key models, and the key techniques, and to work on them and to create amazing learning experience with great slides, with experiences, so that you can learn the coaching and NLP techniques.
You'll see today NLP can be super complex, and we try to make it super easy for you to digest and understand. So hopefully, I'm sure you'll like it. Yeah.
Our second pillar, and you will see that today as well, is really we believe that we learn by doing. And whenever we share about a concept, we make sure that you have the opportunity to experience it as well. We strongly believe in the collective intelligence. And for those of you who have joined our training, you know that we believe we all are experts. We all have infinite resources, and we make sure that we can all share and benefit from the collective intelligence. For us, coaching and training is first and foremost a self-development journey. If you want to coach others, you need to know yourself very well. And we are learning every day about ourselves. And this is something that we want you to experience today, to first learn about yourself, to be able to use those techniques with others. And last but not least, we strongly believe that the future of coaching is going to be partly digital. That's the reason why we have developed a coaching toolbox with amazing tools and amazing program to help others coach people more effectively.
Okay, so what is NLP? So NLP, three-letter word, neuro-linguistic programming. So it was developed by Richard Bandler and John Grinder in the 70s, who believed it was possible to identify patterns of thoughts and behavior of successful people. So they looked at successful people, look at those patterns of thought and behavior, and teach them to other people. So what does NLP mean? So NLP, we're going to go in more details later. So N is the nervous system, neuro. Nervous system is our five senses, our mind, body, and soul, is how we experience the world. Okay, our nervous system. And nervous is not only the brain, it's everything. Our five senses. The VCOG model, we'll go through that. Linguistic. So linguistic is your language, is the word that you use when you interact with other people, but also when you talk to yourself. And we'll see today how important language is. Programming is the result from your experiences and behavior, and now you program your mind, your neural pathways, and how you manage that programming. We'll go through that also. So you program because of all your behavior. You have programmed, if I do that, then this can happen. So I've programmed in my mind those behaviors. So that's the programming part. So today we're going to go through 6 different topics. The unconscious mind and its power. So what is the unconscious mind? 6 NLP techniques and how you can use them in coaching. Then the meta model. So meta model in NLP is very important about linguistic presupposition. Then we're going to go through a Milton model. So explaining what is a Milton model. Then NLP presupposition and VACOG model. So VACOG is the 5 senses. Yeah. So first, the power of the unconscious mind. Okay, so what is the unconscious mind? So the unconscious mind is protecting you. It's holding it inside you. It's the unconscious mind is like your internal regulator. So for example, when you're hot, you're gonna sweat. When you're cold, you're gonna have chills. When you're hungry, you're gonna want to eat. When you are pregnant and you have craving, it's your unconscious mind helping you. So that's your regulator. And your regulator is very concerned with your well-being. He wants to protect you. So when a client comes with very strong emotions, like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me, I feel so tired, I feel so anxious, like I don't know what's happening. So basically your unconscious mind, because he wants to protect you, sometimes he would also repress some memories inside you. And there's a cost to all those negative emotions being inside your body, inside of your conscious awareness. And there's a great cost for those negative emotions to come back. So your unconscious mind will repress those memories. And they will come back to you when you least expect it. Because sometimes like, oh, I'm happy in my life, everything is going well. And those repressed memories, they come back to you. It's because your unconscious mind believes that, okay, now you're ready to handle with those repressed memories. So again, your unconscious mind is your internal regulator, is here to protect you and will repress some memories and will make them alive again to your conscious mind whenever you feel like it. Whenever you feel he feels that you are ready to handle them. So again, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of emotion to squash down all those emotions, all those strong emotions, all that negativity, those repressed memory. And that's why also you can feel sometimes you are out of balance, you're out of energy, lacking of energy, and your mind and body is not really aligned. And sometimes that's what we call disease. So this is, I'm not at ease. So in 2 words, this is, and my mind and body is not aligned. Yeah. So there's another concept perception is projection. So it's based on Carl Jung. So when we say, it takes one to know one. So basically, when let's say you enter in a room, if you're happy and you feel good, you're going to think people around you are happy and positive. You're going to project your perception onto them. On the flip side, if you are in a bad day, in a bad mood, like you don't feel happy today, you feel stressed, and you're gonna feel that when you enter that room, you're gonna feel like everybody is nasty, everyone cares about themselves, nobody cares about you. You are projecting again your perception. So if one day you feel everyone around you is in a bad mood, look at yourself in the mirror, because it turns out that it's you cloning your internal negative state onto them. So they may feel very completely different to the way you are perceiving them, basically. So if you see goodness in someone else, it's your own reflection of your own goodness. So if you haven't, as a coach, if you haven't gotten your stuff together, you will be projecting your own trauma, your own belief onto your client. So the best way to know that you have solved all your stuff is that when you see no fault to others, that you see no fault in others. Yes. Neural pathways. So that's a very important concept. What is a neural pathway and the importance of a neural pathway? And it's also a reason why it's so difficult to change. It's the power of habits. So let's say you are walking in this beautiful wheat field. The first time you're going to walk there, there won't be a path. You're going to start putting a path, but not too much. If you walk the same path over and over and over again, that's going to create a neural pathway in yourself. That's the power of habits. That's why it's so difficult to get out of your habits. And if you stop walking on that particular path, on that particular habit, having that particular habit, then the wheat's going to grow back again. So it's possible to get out of those habits. It takes time. It takes time for the wheat to go back to growing normally, but it's possible. Yes. So the question is, as for yourself and for your client, are your neural pathways constructive? Are they conducive of your purpose, or are they destructive? So for those of you who know, like limiting belief and empowering beliefs, like is it a destructive limiting belief, or is it empowering belief, constructive empowering belief? Are my neural pathways serving my purpose constructively? So there's also something about your belief. 90% of our beliefs today are formed from external illusionary events. So when you were a little boy or little girl, you didn't have like any belief when you were very, very young. And then because of what you were told, like you have to be a good girl, you have to be a good girl, for example, over and over again, you will believe that's reality. And that becomes your reality. And because of what you have been told, 90% of your beliefs today come from like those externally illusionary events, from what was fed to you, from people saying or experiences, and association being formed by it. So for a belief to be aligned with your purpose, it needs to work in the completely opposite way. So you shouldn't be a victim of like those external events coming to you. It should be like those beliefs should come from within, from your purpose, so that you have much more like coming from your internal belief, from your very essence, from your purpose. So become the custodian of your thinking and recognize the difference between those external beliefs that come to you and your internal belief. An example is you have to be a good girl, you have to work hard, you have to have a job, you have to be a manager, you have to be, so those external beliefs. And what is your purpose inside you? So is your internal belief, is your belief supporting your purpose again? Because whatever you believe to be true today, you will project to the world. If you believe I have to be a good girl, I have to be a good manager, I have to have a good job, I have to have a status, then you're going to project your belief onto the world, and you believe all your beliefs, they're always true to yourself. Like you always believe they are true. And your unconscious mind will work to see evidence to support your illusion. So your belief will always be true and right. Yeah. So your unconscious mind needs very, very clear instruction. So be very careful with your thrown away comments. You know, oh, I can't do that. I will never be able to be a good manager. Sometimes you don't even think about it. That's a thrown away comment. Be very careful with that. Because if I tell to you today, don't think of a red car. Please, guys, don't think of a red car. Your unconscious mind doesn't know how to think of negative. So you will, even if I tell you don't think of a red car, you're gonna think of a red car. If you tell your unconscious mind I can't be a good manager, you're gonna think like, okay, I can't be a good manager, and your unconscious mind will work towards like your belief. It will protect you. It will think it's true. You gave him the instruction, I can't be a good manager, and so he will believe it's true. So your conscious mind is the goal setter, is the one setting the goal. And your unconscious mind is the goal getter, is the one getting to your goal. Is the one that will be your willing servant, helping you towards your goal. So again, you have to be very clear on your language, on your conscious mind with your language. We're going to go through the language today. And to be clear with that. So for example, I can never seem to make any money. You think it's a thrown away comment, but you have to be careful again with that. You know, this work gives me a headache. I can't stand this guy. I can't stand this guy. Then you're going to have like behaviors toward this guy, and it's going to become reality. So again, be careful, clear instructions, and you can help your clients also through that. Listen to the language.
Okay. So this is a very important model that you need to know. It's an NLP communication model, and we covered a bit already. So every second, we receive a huge amount of data. Now you receive a huge amount of data. Every event you live, you will receive a huge amount of data. And this data is in different forms and shape. It can be visual, it can be auditory, it can be kinesthetic, it can be olfactory, it can be gustatory. And all this data is processed by our brain, right? And is processed by our brain and is distorted. Sometimes it's deleted. Some pieces of this data is deleted and are generalized based on our beliefs, on values, our attitudes, our past events. Okay, so the data is processed by our neurology. Okay, and then in our brain, there's an amount of ingredients, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory, that are mixed and bundled up together to create our internal representation of this specific event. And again, it's processed by our unconscious mind based on based on our past, our beliefs and values.
Just to go on the internal representation, what does it mean, an internal representation? Today, we are like many people watching that webinar, but each of us, we have a very different internal representation. Each of us will have a different way of experiencing that webinar, thinking like about it, like what is important for me or not, and the way you experience it. So that's your internal representation that is very, very unique to each other. Yes.
Yes. And this internal representation that has been filtered by our unconscious mind will create a state of mind. And this state of mind will impact and create a certain physiology state as well. And the physiology will create behaviors and outcomes. So this is a simplification of the NLP communication model and the importance of the communication in your brain between your conscious and unconscious mind, and the way our internal communication, the way we communicate to our unconscious mind will definitely impact our internal representation. And we will see different NLP techniques that can help you positively impact your unconscious mind.
Yeah, and we're going to go through meta models that are helping with like the distorting, dilating, generalizing. So asking powerful questions to help your client with this distortion, dilation, and generalization. And we're going to explain also a bit more about VCOG.
Okay. No.
So yeah, so next is about the 6 NLP technique and how you can use them in your coaching. Yeah? Okay, so now NLP technique. So today I would like to all of you to think about a lemon. You know, like if you start thinking of a lemon, the smell of a lemon, the taste of that lemon, the color, the image of you eating a lemon, how does it feel like? You're gonna eat that lemon. How are you gonna think about it? You're gonna smell that lemon, the color. You're gonna look at that lemon. How is it? And do you feel like you're starting to salivate when we talk about food, when we talk about the lemons today? And why? Why are we starting to salivate? Because it's anchored in yourself, it's in your mindset, in your brain, that when we talk about food, then automatically you will salivate because your body is getting ready for that. So the same goes with many images, many emotions. And the power also of a coach is to be able to anchor. So we're talking about the anchoring technique here, to anchor those emotions. Okay, so there's different ways in coaching that you can anchor. So there's an example of anchoring would be the power pose. So you can look at the TED talk of Amy Cudley. She's explaining how important it is to have a power pose. So for example, when you start before an interview, we always stand waiting for an interview. We always tend to be on our phone, talking to our friends, and like we're like in a not a very powerful power pose. And so what we should do starting an interview, we should be like, okay, I'm ready, I'm gonna rock it, I'm the best, I'm a Wonder Woman, I'm a Superman, I'm gonna be the best at that interview and getting ready, you know? So you have that power pose and there's an impact with your body because how your body is on your brain. Also, as a coach, you can anchor a goal. So asking your client, okay, what is the goal? What is your dream life? What would you do if you were not if money, time was no issue? What would be your dream life? And then you can anchor that goal. A way to anchor that goal would be like, okay, now close your eyes. You are doing that goal. How do you feel? How do you feel being that super best version of yourself? You just achieved that goal. Okay, so that's a technique of anchoring technique. Another thing that can be used in NLP is like you ask your client, okay, think of an emotion that you want to feel. So it can be happiness, confidence, being calm. And then you close your eyes, you're feeling this emotion. You see what you want to see, you hear, what do you hear, what do you feel, what do you taste, what do you taste, what do you smell, and an anchoring technique. So we won't have time to do it today, but you can look at more details. You could do, okay, now you're gonna touch here or you're gonna touch here. You are anchoring the feeling. You make them be in the feeling that they want to do. And for example, you could say, okay, now you are in that feeling. You press the dog, like of your hair, or you could do that. So you are anchoring that feeling. So meaning, like next time they do that, they will be able to reconnect with that feeling much faster. So that's anchoring. Okay, technique number 2. So before that, we wanted to do a smaller journaling exercise.
Yes, so let's do a journaling exercise. So we will ask you during 1 minute. So take a piece of paper and a pen, and we're gonna ask you to think about all the negative aspects of the circuit breaker, the COVID situation you're living now, all the negative feelings, emotions, facts, whatever is negative in your head. Please write it down now. I'm going to give you 1 minute to write it down now. So think about all the negative. Yes, Lily?
Yeah, it's important that you experience it, that you do it, because if you don't experience it, then you won't understand the power of NLP. Huh? So make sure you do that exercise. It's very fast because it's going to give you you're going to be convinced that it works. Huh? Okay. So again, so journaling, so all the negative thoughts, just focus on the negative of what's happening today on your life. So we do 1 minute. Huh? Yeah. So write all the negativity. How do you feel? What's happening in your life right now? All the negative aspects. How are you feeling? that happened to you over the past few weeks because of the situation today?
Yeah, think whether you've been overwhelmed, stressed, anxious. Think about the physical sensation when you were stressed, anxious, the impact it has on your family, your friends. Okay, 20 seconds left. Okay. Okay, so now you can look at your paper, just read it quickly. And we're going to do the same exercise, but we want you to think of all the positive aspects of the situation. So all the positive things that happened in your life because of the current situation, all the things that you've learned, the relationship that you've grown, and anything that have been positive in your life in the past few weeks because of this situation. All the positive feelings, the gifts you have received, the intention, the attention. Okay, 20 seconds left. Okay, all right. So you can stop writing and look at your paper and look at, so how was it? How do you feel now? How did you manage to move from this negative state to this positive state?
Yeah, you can share on the chat. Huh? How easy was it to like switch from negative to positive? Was it something quite easy, easier than you thought? Like you can share on the chat with everyone so that we see. How easy was it? Huh? Sorry, Geraldine. Yeah, uplifting. Yes.
Okay.
And quite more balanced. Yes. And so it's quite empowering to know that you can switch, you can reframe. So that now we are in the reframing technique. It's quite easier than expected. Yes. Exactly.
Yes, and so that's why we wanted you to experience it, because if you just listen to the theory, then okay, you don't realize how powerful it can be until you experience it. You do it yourself. You write down your positive, your negative thoughts, and then you switch to positive. More interesting to focus on the positive. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So, it's quite empowering to know you have this ability to switch much faster than you think. Even when you're in a negative state, you can, reshift, do that small journaling exercise. It can be, sometimes it's even like automatic. You don't even need to do journaling. It can be like in your mind, okay, I'm reshifting, I'm reframing. So another example of reframing. So you can use that exercise with your clients or with your coaches. Another example of reframing that I love, it was when I watched the Olympic Games in London in 2012. Yes, so rewire your brain, yes. And I realized that in London, the Olympic Games in 2012, I realized all the journalists, they were asking the same question to all the athletes. It was like, are you stressed? Are you stressed? You're going to run like 100 meters now. Are you stressed? And then the athletes, they would answer always the same thing. I feel super excited. And so why? So they're all super excited. And so what's happening is, what is very incredible to me is that the symptoms for stress and for excitement are exactly the same. So I have like sweaty hands, short breath, accelerated heart rate. And so stress is the same. You have exactly the same symptoms, and excitement also. But those athletes, super athletes, they manage to reframe these symptoms positively. Are you stressed? I'm excited. I'm not stressed, I'm excited. So it's very useful, and you can use this technique for yourself, for your clients, almost every day, every second.
Yes, and your role as a coach is to help your client reframe their situation from the negative aspect to the positive. So you can help them shift their perspective with powerful questions. You can also use role reversals. There's many different techniques to help them reframe. It's very important to help them reframe their limiting beliefs into empowering beliefs. And there are many emotions. So Lily mentioned ones that you can shift easily. There's also fear that you can reframe into courage. There's many different emotions, and your role as a coach is to help your client reframe.
So, for example, your client could say, I'm scared of talking in public. I'm super scared of talking in public. How could they reframe it? So you're not the one reframing it for them. You have to ask them, okay, how could we reframe it in a positive way? So that's a limiting belief that's going to limit you. You're going to be in a small box. How can we make it grow? And the empowering belief of I'm scared of talking in public could be, as an example, it's an exciting challenge that's going to help me grow. I'm going to learn from that experience. For us with Geraldine, we had to switch to webinar in just a few weeks. That's an exciting challenge. It was scary, but okay, that's an exciting challenge. And a lot of people also, they are the imposter syndrome. You're at work and you think you're going to be discovered, like everyone thinks that you're a fraud, and they're going to realize that, or your imposter syndrome. And you could reframe that also in like, oh, okay, I'm learning. That's normal. I'm learning. Everybody's learning at some point. That's a new job for me. I'm in that learning stage. So consultants are very good with that because they're arriving on a new mission and they don't know anything about nothing, and they have to pretend they are the best and that they can advise C-levels. But they are very good at, okay, I'm not an imposter, I'm learning. I'm learning, I have appetite to learn. And the negative reframing could be the press. So the press are very conscious today that the negative headlines, they would have 63% more clicks than positive headlines. So they're always reframing the headlines in a negative way. Yeah. So you'll be able to see those reframing in your life soon. So when we put the example in coaching, so the mindset shift and reframing from limiting belief to empowering belief, we did a webinar on limiting belief. For those who haven't seen it, it's really, really powerful. Huh? So we talk a lot about reframing there.
Yes, and Li Fen is asking, what if a client is so negative? So sometimes reframing, it can be done in 2 minutes, okay? Sometimes it takes 4, 5, 6 coaching sessions, and that's okay as well. So there's many different NLP and coaching techniques that you can use, and we will cover some of them.
Yeah, you can pass, huh? Yes. Yes. Yeah, sorry, guys, I'm just having some drink. It's okay. So the question, okay, thank you. I was a bit thirsty. So have you been primed today? So we're gonna do a poll, I believe. So can you answer, have you been primed today? I'll explain what is prime. So prime meaning you've been nudged in the direction, you've been influenced in the direction that we wanted you to be influenced to.
Okay, so for those who answer yes, please let us know in the chat.
Yes, how have you been primed? Examples of where you have been primed today with us or before? Dance. So dancing is priming, because you had some good music. So we prime you, okay, happy music. When you use the music, when the reframing exercise, there was a happy music and a sad music. So priming again is influencing, nudging the person in the direction that you want them to to be nudged. You drank the water. Yes, so people, yeah, well done, Janet, the lemon picture. So when I drank water, I saw a lot of you, like Sophie, Janet, you starting drinking the water. Yes. And so that's priming. You know, I wanted you to drink water. So, okay, I wanted everybody to drink water. So I drank water. So advertising is an example of priming also. Yes. Yes. I've been primed. I'm shocked. So Julie, yes. Julie is a lot about drinking. She always will tell us to drink when we are doing webinars. So I'm sure she drank also. Yes, prime to participate. Yes, that's priming. Priming is another NLP technique. So yes, 82%. Okay, I thought you were less self-aware, so that's good. A lot of people.
But yeah, I think I've influenced the vote when I asked, and my mistake. I should have waited. Because people sharing that they have been primed and how, then the other people would definitely have realized that they have been primed.
But yeah, nudging. Yeah, priming is nudging. Yeah, exactly. Yes, so you can go on the next slide. So it's about, yes, nudging. So it can be seen a bit as a manipulative, because I drank water because I wanted you to drink water. So when are we talking about influence and when are we talking about manipulation? So in my mind, but everybody has a view on that, influence is when you want people something positive for them. I think it's good for all of you to drink water anyway, so that's good that I'm priming you. If it's manipulative, it's yeah. So in coaching, you have to be careful with that one particular one. So again, example of priming are music. If you could put some nice music, it's you're gonna be prime in the morning. So it's for me, I like to start the day with some priming time with music, advertising, drinking the water. When you are doing a massage or in a therapist room, you have some lemongrass. So priming can be also with the scents. And there's a beautiful example of a wine shop. So this one shop put some music. And so when you put some Italian music, people would buy more Italian wine. And when that person, the wine shop owner would put French music, people would buy more French wine. So that's priming. Another technique, NLP technique, is dissociation. So what does it mean, dissociation? Is you dissociate yourself from your emotion. So right now, think of an emotion, maybe close your eyes, think of an emotion that you want to get rid of. Can be a fear, rage, discomfort, like a negative emotion that happened to you lately, and you want to get rid of that emotion. What could that be? And imagine yourself, you're out of your body and you look at yourself having that emotion. You look at yourself being in that emotion you're having. As if you were watching yourself being part of a movie. You're on top of your body and you're watching yourself. And this helps you create distance from that emotion. You and your emotion are two different things. You can dissociate yourself from that emotion. And that's what also you can learn, you can teach, you can learn for yourself. So you can open your eyes. So when for yourself, you can learn, okay, I dissociate myself from that emotion. When I'm hungry right now, okay, I don't want to be hungry. I'm not in control of my emotions. Okay, I'm going to watch myself being angry. And you dissociate yourself. I'm depressed. And also you can help your client when they're overwhelmed, when they feel a strong emotion, when you feel it's that could be helpful. You can, okay, let's dissociate and look at yourself having that emotion. Tell me more. What do you see? You can do some like role playing. There's a role playing also where you are dissociating and look at yourself. Okay, so the swish technique, which is the technique number 5, swish technique is about reprogramming your mind from an unwanted behavior to a desired behavior. So it can be an addiction, can be a limiting belief, any unwanted behavior experience that you don't want to have, and that's a switch technique. So a very famous example of that switch technique, and that's a very sticky example, I feel, is Tony Robbins. When he started as a coach, he was specialized on that switch technique, among other things. And so people will be addicted to smoking. Okay, so we would tell them, okay, now you are addicted to smoking. Let's say Geraldine was a smoker. So Geraldine is a smoker and say, okay, Geraldine, we're going to go in a hotel room together. So Tony Robbins would be with Geraldine and in a room together. And then Geraldine start, please smoke. And then Geraldine is smoking. And Tony would say, okay, Geraldine, keep smoking. Continue. Again. And Geraldine would, no, I can't. I've smoken like a pack of cigarettes is too much. Please smoke again. I want you to smoke. And forcing them. I'm gonna kill you if you don't continue to smoke. You have to smoke, and he would scare them. He's like this big guy scaring them. You have to smoke now, and he would do that to bring to them disgust, because it would be like so disgusting for them. They would be in this big smoke of like room full of smoke, and so helping them to refrain, to switch from the unwanted behavior of smoking and scaring them and linking that behavior of smoking to something disgusting. So that's one technique of switch. And switch is about the initial trigger. So for example, you are eating, you are overeating, you always like want that chocolate. That's me. Huh? You always want that chocolate after your dinner at night. You always need that piece of chocolate. And what is your trigger? What makes you think, okay, I need that chocolate? What is the first thing I have in my mind? So we're going to go through that with the VACOG model. Is it something visual that you see? Is it something that you auditory? Is it, and then understanding. And with the coach, you can add some steps in the process. So we'll go through that. That's also part of the switch. So trying to understand, because of that unwanted behavior, what is the initial trigger? For example, I'm scared I'm very scared of talking in public. Okay, when are you going to start being scared of talking in public? Is it like 1 week before, 2 weeks before, when you receive an email that you need to talk? And then trying to understand that trigger and changing that mindset at the trigger level. So that's a switch technique.
Okay. So building rapport. So as a coach, it's very important that you're able to build rapport. And you can use NLP technique to build rapport. So it's very important when you meet someone to find commonalities, to use the same word. You can use the words they're using. You can also mirror their posture, use the same tone, use the same keywords, the same, and reframe the way when they stop talking before presenting your new idea. So having the same one of the most famous one is certainly mirroring. So this is something we do unconsciously when we like someone else. We agree with the person. So unconsciously we do mirror their posture. So for instance, if I have someone in front of me sitting like that, unconsciously, I might be sitting like that. Thank you, Lily. Or if someone is sitting like that, unconsciously, I might be sitting like that. You can also do that consciously if you want to enter the space of the other person. You don't want to manipulate, it's more to create a connection, create a feeling of trust and safety, and create this safe space with your client, your coachee.
And in LP, you won't be able to do anything at all if you haven't managed to build, and in coaching also, if you haven't managed to build rapport. And you build the rapport very early on in the discussion. Why is it so important that we have small talk at the beginning of a discussion? Even when I was a sales, I would always try not to meet the person in the meeting room, but to meet them at the coffee machine, and then we walk to the meeting room, let's say. And that, because that, yes, we're going to go through the chunk side also, like that is also because we're going to have that small talk and think of what are the commonalities, and they're going to trust me more because I worked on that building rapport. The chunk size is about, if I talk in I love to talk big picture. If someone to me in front of me is talking small picture, like very detail oriented, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm bored. Like, why is he going through so many details? And opposite, if I love details and someone in front of me is like being big picture, I'm going to think, wow, this person is so fluffy. So you have to understand what is the chunk size, how people talk, and so you can imitate them. And yes, the body posture is important also. So if you have someone that is very engaged, like in front of you, like that, it's better also to be engaged. But again, be careful not to imitate exactly at the same time. A good way is to, when it's your time to talk, then you're gonna move. Because otherwise, if you do like at the same time, it's gonna look very awkward. Huh? And there's pacing and leading. So if you have connected with the people with you, you can start. Then you can start moving, and you can see, or you can start taking water, and you can see if they are copying you. If they are copying you, that's a good test that you are building rapport. So let's say you have a coffee with a client, you're taking your coffee. If they are doing it at the same time as you, like pacing and leading, you are leading them, then it's a good sign. Okay, the rapport is here.
Yes, and the use, the tone of the voice also is very important, and the pace of the voice as well. So if someone is talking very slowly and quietly, it's important to use the same tone and pace. And if someone is talking a bit louder, you can also try to use the same pace and tone.
And when I would go for interviews, I would always research the person that I would talk to, like on YouTube or like anything that they talk about, to understand how they talk, and also their keyword that they use, their semantics, because then I would reuse exactly the same keywords, like the strong words that they are using, so that they feel more connected.
Yes, and as a coach, it's very important anyway to use the keywords, the strong words, to help your client also mirror their behaviors, their tone, their words, and anything, so that they can see how they behave and what they think and what they say.
Yeah. So when your client is using a strong keyword, make sure you come back to it. Huh? Like, okay, they said this strong keyword, I come back to it, and like, okay, what do you mean by that? Can you tell me more? Yes.
Okay.
Now we're going to go through the meta model and linguistic presupposition. So what is meta model? Meta model is a very important technique in NLP technique. It's about being more specific. So powerful questions, a set of questions designed to specify information, challenge and expand the limit of a person model of the world. So we said like your perception is always distorted, deleted, generalized. And so as a coach, you're going to help your client filling the gaps and helping them with those. That's meta model. And then we'll go through Milton model. So Milton model is the opposite. It's about being very ambiguous. It's influencing, that is also used a lot in hypnosis, and deliberately ambiguous to displace the resistance in the client and induce a trance state. So it's quite fun. We'll go through that. It's very interesting. So first, the meta model. So again, meta model, this is like to anchor for you visually, for those of you who are visual. Meta model is about powerful questions and seeing more specifically. We're going to put glasses and understand better what's the reality. Milton model, on purpose, you're going to be very like generic. Yes. So when your clients comes to you and is very generic, like, oh, everything is wrong, like I feel overwhelmed, my job sucks, the workload is intense. So we're going to go through that. How are you going to be more specific with them, asking questions? So meta model is very, very useful when your client is confused, overwhelmed, when they lack clarity. And so here you could tell them what specifically is going wrong. Can you tell me more? So our experiences are lost in translation from reality to perceived reality. When we have an experience, we distort that experience. It's completely distorted. We generalize it and we delete it. So meta model is digging into those experiences to recover that lost information. So the first step is to identify the distortion, the generalization, and the deletion. Yeah. Okay, so first on the distortion. So the meta model is about showing your client with new choices. Huh? So a simple question, opening the choices in their life. And the meta model is a tool that would be used very, very regularly for NLP practitioners and coaches. Huh? It comes from the model of the success of Virginia Satir. She was a therapist in the 30s. And it's a technique again from questioning. Yeah? Okay, let's go into distortion. So the first one. Yes. So the mind reads. So so we are in the meta model. The first distortion is the mind reads. Yes, Jim. Yeah. So the client would say, no, sorry, yes. The client would say, she would say here, he hates me. He's always angry at me. So it's mind read because she is mind reading the person, like let's say Mark. So Mark is telling, she thinks that Mark, like her husband, is hating her. So she's doing mind reading. So mind read is you claiming to know the thoughts and feeling of another person. That's a surface structure statement. So as a coach, you challenge that perception to recover what we call the deep structure. So how specifically do you know he hates you? Tell me more. How specifically? So it's about being specific.
And yeah, we are all mind reader, and as a coach, your role is really to capture that moment where you believe there might be a mind reading interpretation.
Okay, so next one is normalization. I have depression. I have fear. So basically normalization is when you use a noun like a depression or fear, and you create it in a process. No, sorry, you create a noun created from a process or from a verb. Okay, so I have depression, I have fear. I'm owning that depression, I'm owning that fear. And depression is a thing derived from the process of doing depression. You can't touch it, you can't hear it, you can't smell it, you can't smell depression. Okay, so there's a shift. You have to shift that in thinking. There's a shift in thinking that you can do with your client. They can't possess a process of depression. They can only perform one, which then give them the choice. People own depression, they own a process as if it was a thing they're holding on to. So for example, the client could come to you, I'm carrying all this hurt from a failed relationship, it's so painful. But you can't carry hurt. You can only act in a way that produces a kinesthetic feeling of hurt. So as a coach, you could say, how are you doing that? How are you like carrying all this hurt? And your coachee would say, what do you mean? Like how I carry this hurt? Like, are you carrying it in a bag? How do you, yes, it's on my shoulder. I have this hurt on my shoulder. So, and then as a coach, you could say, what would happen if you would put all that weight on the floor? Could we do that now? Like, is it possible that we put that weight on the floor? And then sometimes it can be as simple as that to understand that it's two different things, depression and themselves. Yeah. So that's called normalization. Loss performative. Okay. So loss performative. It's when a value judgment is made by the person making this judgment is not being specified. So let's say it's good to talk. It's bad to lie. It's easy to learn NLP. So it's easy to learn NLP. As a coach, you would say, according to who? Who says it's easy to learn NLP? If the client then can find example, okay, how it's easy to learn NLP, then great, it validates their model of the world. If not, they may let go of that belief and find that it's an outdated model of the world. So that's a loss performative. That's one of my favorite, the cause and effect equation. So I always feel like I'm a victim. I'm a victim of the event. My job makes me sad. My wife makes me angry. So the keyword is makes me or equivalent of that. And so I'm a victim. I'm an autonomous victim. I'm very deep. My job makes me sad. I'm a victim of that. I can't do anything. And so when you first meet people and clients, they tend to be, there's a strong chance that they operate from the effect side of the cause and effect equation. So I'm on the effect side. I'm not the one in charge, I'm the victim. So on the cause, I'm the one in charge, I'm empowered. Effect is I'm the victim. Okay, and it's much easier for all of us to put cause outside of ourselves as a default setting. And it's easier to be the victim and to blame other people. But in that process, you give up a lot of your personal power in that process. My job makes me sad. Okay, I'm a victim here. I don't do anything. I'm not acting on it. I'm a victim. And so I give up that personal power to get out of that box that I put myself in. And you put yourself at the mercy of other people and other events. So as a coach, you have to challenge the belief that the external event or situation can have a bearing on their state, on their internal state. My job makes me sad. It's a very impoverished model of the world that an external job can create an internal state. Who is driving your bus? Who is driving your bus today? My job makes me sad. Are you driving your bus or you're not? How exactly does your job make you feel sad? How do you decide to feel sad when you are in your job? When you are in your job, how do you decide to be sad? Can you tell me? Making the point that they are responsible for their internal state. So again, be more specific. How exactly, tell me, how exactly does your job make you feel sad? How do you decide to be sad? Yes. Okay. So again, we're in the meta model, we are in the distortion, and that's distortion number 5. It's about complex equivalence. So complex equivalence is when you have two experiences that are evaluated as being exactly the same thing. They are equated. So that's why we put the equal sign. She never speaks to me means she hates me. Okay, so that could be sequential, like she never speaks to me, she hates me. She never speaks to me means she hates me. So you can have like different ways to spot the complex equivalent. So tell me, as a coach, like you would be the coach. So tell me, have you ever not spoken to someone you love? Have you ever spoken to someone you dislike? So you can basically, you use a counter argument to shake the client's internal representation models of the world. So if you're telling me X equal Y, how does X mean Y? How does Y mean X? Does X always mean Y? How many counter examples can you think of where X doesn't mean Y? And so you are like challenging them. So as a coach, understanding when you see those complex equivalents and challenging those that vision. Yeah. So presupposition. Okay, so presupposition is part of the statement that you must believe to be true for a sentence to make sense. So the actual words used represent only a tiny part of the overall communication. The true meaning of the communication is at a much deeper level. So as a coach, someone would tell you, if Lucy knew how much she hurt me, she would have never done that to me. So as a coach, you have presupposition of existence. So what exists? Okay, Lucy exists. Lucy said something. Number 2, what Lucy said hurt the client. Number 3, Lucy knew what she said hurt the client. So we have like 4 presupposition of existence. Some of these statements may be true, some not. So you have to challenge those statements and get them clarity. An example could be, how do you know Lucy doesn't know how much she hurt you? How do you know? So you are challenging a presupposition. They believe it's true. They strongly believe it's true. How do you know it's true? How do you know Lucy doesn't know? So you are challenging the presupposition. I'm supposing, I'm thinking that's true. Yeah. So we were in the distortion and then generalization. So we're going to just do a few for you. So generalization. So one that is very used, that we hear a lot and have done a lot ourselves, generalization, universal quantifier. No one cares about me, no one cares for me, all the good guys are taken, everyone, no one, always, I'll never find a good job, I'm always a failure. So like being universal quantifier. So those are quite vague and ambiguous. So as a coach, you can challenge that. You can reflect back to them like, nobody cares for you. There's not one person who cares for you. So that's to challenge, like you're mirroring. Yeah? Okay, that's a technique. Another technique on that, you can go deeper and give an example. Okay, who specifically doesn't care for you? Can you tell me more? So that's two techniques that you can use on the universal quantifier. You can use both. You can start with the first one and then the second one. So again, a good way is to mirror back. Huh? No one cares for you? Really? Nobody? There's no one person that cares for you? So that could be a good way to challenge. Huh? So as a coach, meta model again is to fill in the blanks. They have this distorted view, generalization view of their internal representation. So okay, now we're going to go deeper. Model operators. Okay, model operators is possibility, impossibility, necessity. So the word that you would look for as triggers for you are can, may, maybe, might, can't, have, must. I have to go to work. I have to be a good girl. I can't talk. I can't speak up. I must be a certain way. I must be a good manager. I cannot do that. I cannot be a good entrepreneur. I'm a failure. I can't be a good person. Okay, so I can't be successful. So if someone says to you, I have to go to work, I have to be like that, what would I, so you can challenge them. What would happen if you wouldn't go to work, if you didn't go to work? What would happen? Tell me more. So it forces the client to consider alternative and possibilities, possible outcome that they maybe hadn't even considered before. And maybe the belief that they have doesn't hold up to the scrutiny. You will go into scrutiny and maybe it's all true. And even if it's all true, even if it's, I have to go to work, yes, okay, you challenge that, okay, it's true. And the person believes it's true, and then you challenge it and it's still true. Then even if it's true, it's still, the discussion will still open up to new alternatives and new beliefs. So that's model operators. Yes. And now we're going into deletion. I'm drinking, but not too prime, but everybody should drink still. No? Yeah. Okay, deletion. So we mentioned our experiences again are lost in translation from reality to perceived reality. And so we are bridging the gap between that loss of translation. So we looked at distortion, generalization, everything, no one cares for us. And now we are at deletion. So there are a few things with deletion. So there's a lack of referential index. They always do that. They always know best. And so so it's unspecified subject. So as a coach, you can say, who specifically? Can you tell me more? Who specifically? Or another example is simple deletion. I'm unhappy. About what? About who? What do you mean? Okay, so it's simple deletion. They're unhappy. What does that mean? Tell me more. Or can be unspecified verb. She hurt me. Okay, can you tell me more? Who did she hurt? How did she hurt? Sorry, how specifically did she hurt you? So that's deletion. And on the next slide, the last one on the deletion that we all do is comparative deletions. So the words that you can look at are best, worst, most, least, better. She's a much better musician than me. She's much better at doing webinars than me. She's a much better manager. So you're always comparing yourself to someone else. You're comparing with a thing, a person being compared, and it's not really specified what you're doing. So as a coach, you can challenge that comparison and say, okay, she's a much better musician. Okay, I understand, but much better than who? In comparison to who? Giving a bit of context, you know, what does it mean being a better musician? What does it mean being a good musician? Okay. Okay, so now it's bingo time. Okay, so for those of you, I know a few of you know about bingo. So we're going to go through the linguistic presupposition of NLP. Huh? So it's about the words. Some of them we saw already, some will be new. And so I'm going to tell you, you have to guess which one I'm going to talk about. And so you have to put it on the chat, and Geraldine's going to count the point. Okay, so the first one, the first NLP linguistic presupposition. I'm going to give an example. If Lucy knew how much she hurt me, she would have never done that to me. If she knew how much she hurt me, she would have never done it. Sorry, it's not the right one. No, sorry. I'm changing. Sorry. And it's not in order. Okay, sorry. Ignore. Come back. Okay. I can't do that. I need to be a good girl. I can't be a good manager. I have to be this person. I have to be a good manager. So what linguistic presupposition would it be? Can you guys put it on the chat when I say that? I need to be a good girl. I need to be a good manager. I can't be an entrepreneur. No, that's not. Yes, that's a yes. Possibility, impossibility, necessity. Yes, yes.
Well done. So 1 point.
Yes. So I can't. I need to. Yes. Okay. Number 2. So Geraldine, you can scroll down. Here, you can.
Doesn't.
Yes. Okay. Second one. Marx makes me angry. Sorry. My job makes me sad. My wife makes me nervous. This job makes me depressed. Cause and effect. Yes, we are in the cause and effect. Who has 1 point?
Karin.
Karin, well done, Karin. Third one. I am depressed. My job is depressing. I am depressed. I am a failure. No, it's not awareness. No. It's one that we saw. I'm starting with one that we saw already. Huh? I am. And so as a coach, you would say, how does X mean Y? How does X always mean Y? Can you think of example when X doesn't mean Y? No. No, it's about like, so I am depressed and you're challenging that, yes, complex equivalence. Yes. So I am depressed, me equals depression. My job makes me is depressing. So you are challenging that equality. Huh? Okay.
It's Marion, I think so.
Okay. Number 4. Okay, now we are number 4. If Lucy knew how much she hurt me, she would have never done that to me. So how, as a coach, how do you know Lucy knows that she hurt you? If Lucy knew how much she hurt me, she would have never done that to me. Yes, presupposition of existence. Yes.
Well done, Isabel.
Number 5. So that one we haven't seen. I use that a lot. It's also called a double bind. So I would tell you, do you want to meet on Tuesday or on Thursday? Do you want to pay in cash or do you want to pay in check? So I give you an illusion of choice. So I use that almost every day, like when I have to book a client. I'm not asking like, do you want to meet? But I'm telling you, do you want to meet on Tuesday or do you want to meet on Thursday? Yes, inclusive and exclusive or. So that's super, super useful in sales. And I would recommend when you book a meeting, never give more than 2 options. Huh? You always say, okay, do you want to meet on Tuesday at 3 p.m. or on Thursday at 4 p.m.? Even if your agenda is like so at least it's easier for the person to engage and say, okay, and they are in that double bind. So here we are more into the influencing that can be a bit borderline. Okay. So that's the double bind and the inclusive and exclusive order. Next one. I can't see myself being a success. It feels off. So it's about the feeling. Huh? I can't see myself. I feel off. It feels off. So it's about the VACOG modalities. It's about the visual modality. So I can't see myself being awareness. Yes. So as a coach, you can say, remember, so I can't see myself being a success. Remember a time when you were a success. Can you tell me more about that time? Okay. And so the word for that linguistic presupposition of awareness you can think of are the VACOG. So see, I feel, I hear. So all those words. Okay.
We have two leads. Marion and Karin, you are 2 points each. Christian,
yeah, well done.
Isabel 1.
Okay. That one is when you say, first I need to make money and then I'll be happy. So there's a sequence. You're doing almost like a list. Ordinals. Well done. Well done. That's not invisible. We didn't. Yeah. Yes. So it's like a list. So the words that we look at are first, last, next, only. So if you say, first I need to make money and then only I'll be happy. Okay, that's a very like, that's an ordinal language. And you can challenge that as a coach. Give me an example when you were happy and you didn't have any money. Can you give me an example? So that's ordinals. Okay, number 8. Okay, so that's in Swish, for example, you would say, take that unwanted old picture and let me know when you have done it. Or you could say, what was it that you did at that time in the past that compelled you such that you felt you had a problem? Yeah, temporal presupposition. So the word that you can use are now, then, old, new, past, future. So basically when I tell someone, take that unwanted old picture, let me know when. So take that unwanted old picture. I'm assuming that picture is old. They didn't tell me that picture is old, huh? But I have that limit. They have this limiting belief, and I'm suggesting to them, take that unwanted old picture. So you're suggesting to them through that temporal presupposition. It's in the past. So that's very powerful in terms of influencing with your client. Okay, last but not least, that I'm working hard, I'm working fast. So that's obvious, and that words, adjective, and adverb. So as a coach, listen to those adverbs, listen to that to those words. Huh?
I'm not sure I'm giving this point. It was too easy.
Yeah, so this one. So who's winning?
So because of that, Karin is the winner. Well done, Karin. So now you can sing. That was your prize.
Oh, we all sing for her. We should all sing for her.
So Karin, 3 points. Christian, so almost 3. Marion, 2 points, and Isabel, 1 point. Well done, guys.
Yeah, bravo. Thank you. Thank you for being engaged, and it's a win-win for everybody to be engaged. Huh? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So we've seen the meta models. You've seen a meta model again, powerful questioning, going more into specific, and listening to the linguistic. And we're talking about linguistic presupposition. Later on, we're going to go through the NLP presupposition that are very powerful too. But here it was linguistic presupposition. Now we're going to go into the Milton model. Okay, Milton model. So it's very interesting because we were into specific, and now with Milton model, we are into ambiguous. So being ambiguous, being influencing, and it's deliberately ambiguous. Okay. So we're going to give you an example. So it's a linguistic tool to speak to the unconscious mind and influence people. It's from Milton Erickson. So the NLP founders, they observed the work of Milton Erickson. He was a hypnotic therapist. So you're going to see some of this language is very hypnotic. And they saw our incredible results he had with clients, how he managed to induce trance. So his language was deliberately ambiguous, abstract, and big picture. It enables the client to unconsciously complete the picture that is left with the gaps. Okay, so a good example of that would be horoscope. Just to make it sticky for you as a metaphor, an horoscope, when you look at the horoscope, you always find information that is relevant to you. Oh yes, it's so true. Like for me, I'm a Cancer. Oh, that's exactly what who I am. How do they manage to do that? Because it's very ambiguous words that could fit everyone, and we fill in the gaps. Our unconscious mind is filling in the gaps. Okay, and so leaders, for example, they would talk in very ambiguous words when they do their speech. They use ambiguous language on purpose so that they attract as many people to them. People are filling those gaps. So the conscious mind prefers details and fact, rational. The unconscious mind prefers ideas and concepts. And so the idea with the Milton model is to bypass the critical faculty barrier. So a good way also would be metaphors. When you're using metaphor and you're going with your client on a journey with that metaphor, those of you who've gone through our training they know about the power of metaphor, and you go with that client, you are doing like a bit of going through bypassing the critical faculty of the conscious mind. And so the language pattern is very ambiguous on purpose and enough to cause confusion and to be a distraction for the conscious mind, and going to the far superior unconscious mind where everything is possible, where creativity is unrestricted by the conscious distraction, where change is made easy. So it's quite abstract, but you'll see it's going to be an interesting journey. Yeah. So I'm telling you, I know you are changing. Like today, all of you, I know you're changing. And change is good. If you decide to change now, you will easily achieve your goal. You are an amazing human being. And again, as you continue to change, you will see now all change is good. And so this is quite hypnotic, you know, it's very hypnotic. And there are 5 sentences, and you'll see how each of those sentences are linked to a presupposition that we already looked at. So I don't know if it's easy for you to spot them, but we're going to go through that. So the first sentence, you can go down, Geraldine. So the first sentence, I know you're changing, is a mind read. You're claiming that you know the thoughts and feeling of the other person without being specific the way in which you came to know them. And so if I tell you, or if you tell your coachee, I know you're changing, you're like, huh? What does he mean? How does he know that? How does he know I'm changing? Your unconscious mind will freak out, and there would be a sense of curiosity and a small trance state. So I know you're changing. That's a very powerful way. It's much more powerful than, do you think you are changing? In the Milton model sense of the world. Huh? And the beauty of it is the unconscious mind, like when you read an horoscope, the unconscious mind will seek out evidence to support that statement. I know you're changing. You will, okay, oh, how does he know I'm changing? Oh, right, okay. I'm doing that webinar, an LP webinar. It's true, I'm changing. I'm learning here. So, and so your unconscious mind will help you fill out those gaps. And you will believe it's true. It will be very empowering. I know you're changing, and that's a good thing. You can and you will be confident and positive from this point on. And your client takes it on board and activate the suggestion. Okay? So when we look at change is good, it's a loss performative. If you decide to change now, you will achieve your goal. That's cause and effect. You are in charge of your destiny. You are the custodian of your thoughts. You could say, if you follow this process, then you will get results. If you apply what you're learning, you will achieve your goals. So that's cause and effect. If you do that, you'll get that. You could tell a client in the cause and effect, if your client says, I'm stuck. You could tell them, you are stuck because you haven't chosen to change yet. And so you put them back in the cause and effect equation. I'm stuck. Yes, you are stuck. I understand that. You are stuck today because you haven't chosen to change yet. Okay, wow. Okay. That means I have to shift back in the cause of the cause and effect equation. I'm in charge of my destiny. So it helps the client reconsider their position in the cause and effect equation. So the next one, you are an amazing human being. That's a complex equivalent. You equal amazing human being. And we are in the equal sign. Huh? So 2 statements are considered equal. I am nervous. I'm not a nervous person. Like I am nervous. Huh? So for example, if someone tells you, I am nervous, tell me more when you're nervous. How did you do that? And that was a complex equivalent. So in Milton model, change for a complex equivalent, change means you will have success. You are an amazing human being. That's complex equivalent. And the last but not least, presupposition. So in that language, I'm presupposing that you have changed already. I'm using and again. As you continue to change, I'm presupposing that you have changed already. It's quite powerful, huh? As again and again, as you continue to change, you will see now that all change is good. So that's presupposition. I'm presupposing that you have changed already. Yeah. Pacing, so an example of pacing. We are here today, now is the time. Tomorrow is another day. Time waits for no one. Today is the day. Those are undeniably true. And so leaders, they would use those words because your unconscious mind would say, yes, 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 yes. And you start a pattern of yeses, and you get into the habit of getting into the agreement for the next statement. And the next slide, which is the pattern of agreement. So using those yes, 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 which means you will be more inclined to say yes to the next one, which is quite influencing. Yeah? Again, those can be a bit borderline, huh? So be careful with those. But hold on, Geraldine, just so on the pattern agreement, you are listening to me now as you're learning NLP, and now is the time. So you have 3 yeses, you can learn NLP easily. So because you have 3 yeses, then you believe the 4th is a yes too. You start a pattern of agreement. And we use command tonality in NLP, which is a tone of voice going lower. Yeah. The next one is a double bind. We discussed that already. So again, do you want to pay in check or by check or cash? Do you want to meet on Monday at 3 p.m., on Tuesday at 4 p.m.? So I use that every day. So super powerful technique. Yeah. Next one, universal quantifier in the Milton model. So it's fun. It's interesting because we're using exactly the same like universal quantifier. We saw them already in meta model. Everything we saw already in meta model, and now we're shifting to Milton model. Exactly the same things, but with a different mindset, which is more like influencing mindset and being more fuzzy. And the first one was more about specific question, like all good guys are taken. Okay, what do you mean? There's no good guys out there for you? So that was more like the meta model. And the Milton model, exactly the same, like you're doing like universal quantifier. So all, everyone, everywhere, everything. So that would be, you would use that like saying, everyone knows that these are good things to learn. It's always that way. All the things we learn everywhere and nowhere, change is everywhere. So you can use that and be careful because those can be like change is good, change is everywhere. It can be quite authoritarian, so you have to make sure you have built rapport before, so you can bypass easily the conscious mind. Yes. And the last one on Milton model, I think conversational postulates. So it's quite fun because when you say, can you close the door? Can you give me time? So they wouldn't say yes to that, they would do the action. So it's about like engaging them. It's like a question, but that doesn't link to a yes or no. It's more like an action. Can you close the eyes for me? And you will go in deeper trance. So that's this kind of, yes. And the last one, sorry, the last one, this one is super, super useful. So someone will come to you, I'm not sold on coaching, I'm not sold on NLP. So you have to make sure you enter their model of the world. You empathize, I don't know how to say that word. You feed back to them their model of the world. So this model is feedback, empathize, suggest. Feedback, okay, the client is telling you, I'm not sold on NLP. That's right. You are simply not sold on NLP. Feedback. Second one is empathize. And I know how you feel. Third one is suggestion. However, you are not yet sold on the idea of NLP because I haven't answered that one specific question that you want to ask me and haven't yet. That would allow you to totally be sold on NLP. If you were to know, what would be that question? So feedback, empathize, suggestion. That's right, you're simply not sold on NLP. I know how you feel, and then suggestion. So that's very, very powerful. You can use it at home also. Yes, feedback, empathize, and suggest. Yes. Okay. So now NLP presupposition. So those are very powerful presupposition. We're going to go through them, explaining you what they are. They are very convenient assumptions or belief, and that are really generally good to assume. They are the bedrock of NLP for helping like in relationship, improving communication. So those are presuppositions. First one. So we looked at language presupposition. Now we are NLP presupposition. Respect for other person model of the world. So we all have a different model of the world. You have to respect. Don't put your own subjectivity into the other person's mind. I always use that example. I love entrepreneurship, and I always, when people will come to me, I always want to push that to them, like saying, Sophie, you don't know it, but you have to be an entrepreneur. That's amazing. Like, you know, and I would push my model of the world onto Sophie, you know? So we are all one of version. We are all unique. Yes, Sophie is okay with that. And so even this webinar, we are all our own mapping of the world. We all have a different experience of that webinar. And I challenge you with that. Try to find an example of someone that is opposite from you, that has a very different values, belief, opinion that are super opposite from yours. And could you honestly communicate with that person without attempting to inflict your own values, your own model of the world onto them? That's a challenge I'm giving you. Try to find a person that is opposite from you and try to see if you can not put your own mapping of the world onto them. Okay? Presupposition number 2. Geraldine. So behavior, yes. So behavior and change should be evaluated in terms of context and ecology. So that is, what are the, I have an objective, I have a goal. What are the consequences of that change? Is it ecological change? The impact it has on other people, it should be positive on the world. Okay, presupposition number 3, resistance in a client is a sign of lack of rapport. So as a coach, assume 100% of responsibility of the communication. It's your fault if the communication is not going well, if there's resistance to in your client. We always tend to think, oh, that client is not coachable. It's easier to think that. You are blaming the other person instead of blaming yourself. So do not hesitate when that happens to restart building the report from scratch, getting your full attention with what we call the soft focus. So being focused, but like soft focus. And the words that are being used are not always the message, so trying to understand that. And is your client congruent? Is the physiology of your client, is it congruent with the word? People are not their behaviors. So Mark is always angry. Mark is not anger. If you put that on someone, if you equate that, like Emma is depressed, it's very diminishing. Like when you equate someone with their behavior, if you say once alcoholic, always an alcoholic, then you don't give choices. And the person doesn't have any more choices. And that's your role as a coach, to expand those choices and believe the sky is the limit, and you are not your behaviors. And can be quite challenging for some clients to realize that. I am depressed, I'm not my behavior. Depression, me. Physically, you can even like have a paper, you put their first name, depression, you scratch into pieces, and then you make them, so physically you can also show them these two different things. Everyone is doing the best they can with the resources available to them. The important word here is available. So I have limiting belief. I know I have limiting beliefs. The unconscious mind might bring barrier to me. So our mission as a coach is to break down those barriers and open their eyes so that they utilize the resources that are available to them and get results. Sorry, I'm like having like a... So if a client, if the client wants to do a hole in a wall, scratching it with his finger, for example, you could tell them, sorry, I'm going to move. Yes, so you could tell that client, like, for example, your client is saying like, he's trying to scratch a wall with his finger, you know, like scratching a wall. And you can tell them, okay, what else could you do? Is there something else you can do? Is there a more effective tool? Oh, yes, you're right. I could look there. I could look in my shade. I could look for a power drill. and say, okay. And so you give them, you explain them, like you look for more resources. Okay, so showing them that resources available to them are more than they think. Okay, like your client say, oh yes, I forgot I had this power drill, I even forgot I had that. Okay, next one, calibrate on behavior. What we say is not always what we communicate. At first, our reference as a coach is the client's behavior. So we think of the behavior of the client, we look at their physiology. Is it congruent? I'm calibrating on their behavior. Is it congruent? Okay, so bring, and don't worry, you can bring to their attention when they are not congruent. That's you looking at their physiology, looking at they react. And an easy one is like when someone is crying. Someone you would think like what's happening, so that's the obvious one, like okay, what's happening, can you tell me more about that? But change his philosophy might be much wider than that. Next one, map is not the territory. Looking at a map is not the same as being in the field. So the map is a guide, but you're not in the land itself. Our internal representation are not the same as the event itself. Okay, I'm saying, I just saw that event, I just had this event, I'm talking about it. That's a map of the event, that's my internal representation of that. So we say what we believe is real, and we describe with our own perception, altered by our values, belief, distorted, deleted, generalized, but it's not the territory. So as a coach, how do you do that? You zoom in, you ask for more details, or even better, you experience it. Okay, tell me more. How do you feel? How did you feel? What did you see? How did you hear? So the meta model is an example of that, where you recover the lost data. Okay, next one. This one we saw, you are in charge of your mind and therefore of the results. Cause and effect equation, huh? You are empowered. Next one, people have all the resources that they need to succeed. So when you started as a child, you were that superhero, you are invisible, your bicycle was this big rocket ship and you were invisible. So they are the most successful. You know, why are some adults so successful and some other than not? What's happening? Why are some people like they always succeeding and some they are failing? Some of the most even of the hugely successful people in the world have managed to hold on to that child quality. I can be that child on my bicycle, and my bicycle can be my rocket ship. And a good example of that is like the SpaceX. You have to be crazy enough to believe in your dream that they can be real. So go back to your 5-year-old self. If you could have a magic wand and transform your life, what would you do? What would you choose for yourself if time and money was no issue? That's something you can do with your client. All procedures should increase wholeness. So that's you have self-imposed limiting belief. So when you have those limiting beliefs, for me, like all good guys are taken, I can't find any good guys here. I am not my old self. I'm limiting myself. I'm not attractive. I'm not attracting abundance of happiness, wealth, or success, because I have those internal conflicts preventing me from living my best life. So please don't leave those unresolved. You know, like make sure you dig into those. And when you have a client, part of me thinks that, and part of me thinks that, that also like could be a limiting belief, and that you can, so move past that, help your client move past that and be in the flow, in the zone. The next one, everybody knows, there's no failure, only feedback. So failures are very valuable. They are learning opportunities. I love this example, you know, in the US school, in the French school, when we do mistakes at school, you would like, oh, I did a mistake, then you would erase it and forget about it. The American way of in school, when the kid does a mistake, they would like circle it and look at that mistake and like, okay, that's a learning opportunity. And I love this mindset. I feel it's like such a huge mindset shift, and so true. So look at your failures, what you've done wrong, like how you learn from it, how you bounce back. A tool that we use on the platform, on the Go Master Coach Toolbox, is the life map. How did you bounce back from those failures? Huge, very empowering. Next one, the meaning of communication is response that you get. So take 100% responsibility of the communication you're having. For example, you said something and the other person heard something else. you repeat it and they still heard something else, it's your communication that needs to change to fit their model of the world. The response that you're getting from your communication will give you feedbacks. Okay, so you're always looking feedback from the response that you're getting. Okay, so there are 14 NLP presuppositions. No? The law of requisite variety, the person who is the most flexible in the communication will control the communication. So we saw that earlier today using the Milton model, so using ambiguity. And last but not least, all procedures should be designed to increase choice. So as a coach, you shouldn't think, I can fix that person. She can be an entrepreneur. She doesn't know it. I want her to be an entrepreneur, because it's restraining. It's like you have to open the possibility. Okay. And you have to help. So that's a growth model, and looking at options and exploring. Yeah. And the result should increase, empower them, give them more choices. Yeah. Okay. Okay, last one, VACOG. That's a very important one. It's super exciting, this one also. So our representation system is VACOG. Those are our 5 senses. Vision, visual, auditory, here, kinesthetic, how I feel. Even the gut feeling is kinesthetic. Huh? Olfactory, what I smell. And gustatory, like the taste. Huh? Okay. So if I tell you, so you can go next. If I tell you today, can you think of a time, can you remember what was the color of your wallpaper when you were a kid? Can you remember that? Can you remember that wallpaper? How was it? Was there pattern, colors? How was it? And so you can use that, you can do that test at home, huh? Let me know. So most people, so it's a bit like handwriting. Eh? So most people, they would be right, but some people, they would be left. So it's good to calibrate with the person to see who they are, if they are more like a regular or not. So you can do that with someone at home. Ask them a question where they have to recall visually. So if you look at the person, and they are looking right, so like you look at that woman, and she would look, when you're facing her, on the top right. So for her it would be her left, but for you it would be your right. She's in the visual recall. If she's a regular VACOG, you can do that test, and if they're doing the other side, then it would be all shifted. Huh? Okay, so you have the recall is on the right. So remember, when you're watching that person, RR, recall, right, recall is remember. Huh? Recall, remember, it's on the right. So visual is on the top. Auditory, they would look on the side here, and kinesthetic on the bottom. And you have like auditory digital for the recall. So it's when you are hearing internal dialogues. Okay, should I buy that dress? Okay, what's the price of that dress? You're thinking of data, internally data. And so when you are constructing, so also when you're lying, for example, or you're constructing like it's in the future, can you tell me more, Geraldine, what would be the color that you want on your walls in your bedroom? What could be the right color for you? Would there be some patterns, some flowers? So that would be the visual. Or auditory could be, can you tell me can you remember the voice of your teacher? I mean, you can test like that. Have fun, yeah, have fun with that. Ask some questions. If that's interesting, we can give you some questions to ask so you can test the people with you. When you do those tests, I would love to have feedbacks and if it worked. Huh? Yeah. And so go deeper, tell them like, okay, tell me more, what are the colors, so that they have time to move the eyes. Huh? Okay, so if you look at the buying strategy of someone in a store, okay, we all have different buying strategies. We all decide on buying, on changing. We all have different ways of doing it, and it's you have to respect that all of us have different ways of doing that. Some people will take more time. Some people will need to be convinced. So there are different types of convincing. They will need more time. They will need to be convinced several times, or they would be convinced on the spot. So it's it's quite interesting to see that. But let's say this person, she's going to buy something into a store. So first she would see the product, so it's visual, she sees the product. Then she checked the price and she thinks about the price. So that's auditory digital, because she's like internal discussion. And then she okay, I like that dress. Okay, I'm feeling good about it. Okay, I'm gonna buy it. So that's kinesthetic internal. Okay, so you have to visual external, seeing the product, auditory digital, and then kinesthetic internal. So when we are making a decision in life, we tend to have the same pattern. So understanding what is your coach's pattern, what is your own pattern, that's very powerful. We don't have time to go through it deeper, but we do another one on that. Huh? So there are ways to change a strategy. So we talked about metaphors, anchoring, reframing, and there's the eye pattern rehearsal. So it's interesting. You can, for example, I was telling I love to eat chocolate in the evening. So I tend to be, I think of my chocolate and then I would look at it. So I have this behavior. So maybe some people who are over 80, you can add auditory digital in between in their pattern of decision making. Auditory digital is like, okay, should I eat that chocolate? Why should I eat that chocolate? Is it? And so you're training them to add that step in their decision process, because it's going to make the process longer. Yes. So Geraldine, you want to this one? Huh? So we discussed about that. Geraldine, you want to take over?
No, we covered already. I think we're running a bit out of time, guys. Sorry for that. So yeah, just to wrap up, to have an overview of many things that we discussed today. You can see the VACOG model and the way we receive information and the way our neurology process information through the conscious and unconscious mind. The fact that our unconscious mind will distort, delete, and or generalize the event and the data we received, create internal representation, our map of the world, which create our state, impact our physiology, and ultimately impact our behaviors and outcomes. Okay.
So what you learned today, 6 NLP techniques, and we primed you. I'm so happy with that. That's my giveaway today. Meta model, you remember, so meta model being powerful questioning specific, model influencing but more ambiguous, the 9 NLP linguistic presupposition, that's when we did the bingo, and the 14 NLP presupposition, like map is not the territory, for example. Yes. Okay. So we have this app that you can use. If you want access to it, please send us an email. We can give you free access for 1 month. So info@gomastercoach.com, or you can reach out on WhatsApp on our website. And we can give you free access to it because you watched that webinar. And if you want access to it, you can also do the QR code. For the free access, you have to send us an email or a WhatsApp. Yeah. And we are starting a coaching certification, very exciting, next week on the 2nd of July. And you can graduate in August. So it's 2 days, 3 modules of 2 days. So 6 days in between, 6 days in total. And it's very exciting. Usually it's like a very rich group of people. Lots of people that are here went through that journey, and we're very grateful of that. So starting next week on 2nd of July. If you have friends or if you want to sign up, we are closing tomorrow, the registrations. Yes. And the last, before we take on questions, yeah, go for it, Geraldine. We want to show you. Yes, that's the trust exercise.